past few months, I've barely touched my indie game, the Steps of Divynia. Furthermore, the last few videos that I've created on this channel have been of really poor quality in certain aspects, and it shows. So, why does this happen? Well, I think there are 3 major things that stop indie developers from achieving their dream. We all know that it takes a lot of skill, time, and luck to make a game. Yet, a lot of projects go unfinished, and instead of ever coming back to finish them, or at the very least, starting a brand new project, most indie developers tend to just disappear. I've seen this happen a good bit myself on Twitter, with friends I've made on Discord, and it even almost happened to myself. And in this video, I look to answer why indie game developers vanish, so we can all keep working toward our dream and not shelving it for good. So, without further ado, let's get into it. The first major thing is something that I think we take for granted. It happens hundreds, if not thousands of times daily, but we don't notice it. That is a change in environment or a change in circumstance. So, for myself, what this means is that at the beginning of this year, I took on a little bit more work at my part-time job than I normally would. Furthermore, I decided to mix things up and try something different that would create a higher workload for me, but might yield better results. Furthermore, I started to feel lonely since about the end of last year, and every time I thought about joining a Discord for game development or reaching out to friends, I would sit here and think that I was just in one of those moods and that it would go away eventually, yet it never did. Finally, in the past few months, my mother's medical condition has gotten worse. All of these things is all a form of stress. And from my experience, there's no easy way to fix this. Like, you can't just wish away my mother's medical condition. I can't just fix my feelings of loneliness and still have the same amount of time that I had to work on my indie project. And I can't just abandon work or change my methodology toward the end before the summer. So therefore, the only thing that I can really do is notice the stress and notice that things around me in my environment have changed and try and build a new way to adapt to these changes so that way, A, I don't feel like I'm falling behind or abandoning my projects or my content creation, and B, so I can try and have a healthier way of dealing with the stressors as they come in. The second thing is something that happens within us. It's something where we either end up putting ourselves down or we have way too high of expectations that when we fail and fail to live up to them, we blame ourselves. And of course, what I'm ultimately referring to is a feeling of shame. For me, shame involves a couple of different things. First of all, with my game, I was hoping to be a lot further along. For instance, when I look back and I see the amount of progress that I made when I first started to learn Unreal to how much progress I'm making now, well, I was making a lot more progress then than I am now, which leads to a bit of feeling of shame. Yet, what my brain doesn't really try and work through is the idea that, hey, while you're still working in an engine you're not as familiar with, you already created character movement in Unity. You already laid the groundwork for what the game should kind of look and feel like. So therefore, now that you're moving away from those familiar features and moving on to something new, shouldn't judge yourself on those same standards. As for content creation, I always wanted two things from this YouTube channel. One is I hope to someday be monetized, so that way it can kind of be a source of an income stream for me. Second, I hope to be able to help other developers. Yet, even after a year and I haven't reached my monetization goal, I sometimes think that there's something that I didn't do correctly. Furthermore, when it comes to my own game, I see other people, and just recently I've heard of an indie developer's success, and when I saw his story and his timeline of about 9 months, I thought, you idiot, why can't you do something like that? Yet, all of this is to say that we end up having what's known as analysis paralysis. It's like when you're trying to pick an engine for the first time. Most of us sit here and think, well, goodness, what I'm trying to create is going to be quite complex. Maybe it's 2D and not 3D. Maybe I need something in my case that works with Spine and another program because that's how I'm going to animate my 2D characters. And so I have to check all of these boxes. And don't get me wrong, some of these boxes are good to check. However, when it comes to, well, which engine is going to be easier to make my complex game idea, you're never going to know because you don't have the experience or the reference to be able to be like, oh, well, is this one going to work better for this than this? And so what you end up doing is you end up trying to search on YouTube, what's the best game engine for 2024? And the reality is you're putting way too much thought in it. Instead of trying to look forward, you should come back to the present today and ask yourself, what is one thing that I could do today to get started? The answer? Go download an engine and get your hands dirty. Instead of trying to figure out something that works perfectly for your game or your circumstance, because that's the only way you're going to know whether Unreal, Godot, Unity, Game Maker is the best thing for you. That's why I'm a big fan of suggesting downloading an engine and just playing around in it for a couple of hours to a week and just seeing how you feel by the time you're done. And so the last thing that I think causes us to just disappear from game development is targeted toward those who are solo indie developers, or they have a very small team and no budget, and what budget they do have is coming from personal finances rather than a publisher, a game, or an investor. And that is that we're taking things way too serious. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot on the line. I mean, this is our future that we're talking about. But yet, we should still remember to try and have fun and enjoy the moment-to-moment work. Furthermore, we need to consider what our end goal is and how much time we have available, and realistically, how we can get from point A to point B to our goal. So, a good example of this is the fact that I enjoy every element of game dev. It's all wonderful. Yet, if my goal is to try and search for a publisher sometime toward the end of this year or early next year, then I should start thinking about what are the skills that I currently have today that I can use to try and secure funding. Because ultimately, there's no way that I can build all of those skills up high enough to where they can be good enough at each level. So instead, I need to find that investment so I can hire outside talent to help with the project. So therefore, what do you really care about? What is your unfair advantage? You can't take a 20-ounce bottle and fill 10 8-ounce cups. It's just mathematically impossible, and you're going to end up doing what I was doing, which was saying, I'm too busy, I never have time, I'm tired, because you're spreading yourself way too thin. It's like what Bilbo said in The Lord of the Rings. So we can fix that by, instead of trying to fill 10 cups, we can fill 2 8-ounce cups with our 20-ounce bottle. So therefore, figure out what works for you. You got this. So therefore, define an end goal and make the realistic steps it's going to take to get there, and how much time you have per day to try and make it. And so all of these things lead to burnout. And burnout is the secret killer that will kill our indie game dream. And it stems from just having too much stress from the conditions that either are being placed upon you or that you're placing upon yourself. It comes from shame, from having too high expectations from where we currently are in our journey, and it comes from trying to take things too seriously and trying to do too much with too little time. So, there you have it. 3 things that I think lead to game dev burnout. If you found this video helpful, please consider giving the video a like and subscribing for more videos like this, where I hope to do more in the future. If you still feel like you have no idea how to get started in game development or what a roadmap looks like, then I suggest you watch this video. But until next time, remember to spark the imagination. Take care, friends. Goodbye.